What's the dumbest thing you believed as a child? That adults were intelligent. China is very populated and it always has been. I am the 5th child of my family. It was said that every 5th child is Chinese. I thought I was Chinese when I was little. I am Swedish American. I thought olives were just overripened grapes. Until I was in my 20s. Let me see. A couple of things. I believed I was immortal and would live forever. When I realized people actually died and didn't come back, I freaked out. I believed sex worked by a man and a woman sleeping in the same bed for a night. And then the women would become pregnant. I thought the shoulder pads football players wore were there actually missiles. I thought every football player was ripped. Lol. That turning on the light in the car was illegal. I used to think the world was black and white when my parents were kids. That girls peed through their ass. And therefore they sheeted trough their pen 15. I used to think praying was akin to using a phone to dial up to heaven. So when I was a kid I'd make the sign of the cross to start my call prayer to Jesus. I was a super forgetful child though, so what ended up happening was this. Okay, thank you for listening to me, God. Bye bye makes the sign of the cross. Sorry Jesus, I'm not sure I ended my prayer properly, let me try again. Makes the sign of the cross twice. Can you still hear me? No? Okay, I'm going to go play now. Makes the sign of the cross one last time to be sure. All dogs were male. All cats were female. That giant clouds were just smokescreen for giant alien spaceships. I blame Independence Day for making me think that. I used to believe that root beer was made from plant roots. My friend and I went around digging up plant roots trying them to locate the source. My mum told me that all mothers could mind read their kids, so me keeping secrets was futile because she'd always know. I also thought that when you slept, you stopped breathing. Of course, whenever I pretended to be sleeping, I would end up gasping for breath and giving myself away. The sun and moon rotated around the earth. That funerals were some kind of birthday. I used to believe that before the invention of color photography that everything was in black and white. That daddy would love me one day. That building sites were excavations for giant bones. When I was a kid I convinced myself that I could splice a Sega Genesis with a Sonic the Hedgehog cartridge to the wiring of a Power Wheels Jeep to make a super fast car. I believed that because my mom knew everything my dad didn't and my dad knew everything my mom didn't, then I must know everything. I was a confident child. When I was 12, my brother and I had a great idea. We were going to make a website on which any information can be found. Like Wikipedia. Yes. But our idea was that we would be providing all the text by writing everything down. I stopped after describing the Second Punic War. My brother didn't even start. Dickhead older brothers told me boys had 4 testicles and girls had 2. Confused 5-year-old me pretty badly. When I was quite small, I thought dogs were boys and cats were girls. I believed the English language is all made up for songs to sound cool. I used to think that the reclining button on an airplane seat was an eject button. That Sesame Street was an actual street. I begged my mom to take me. She just told me that it was too far away. I cried for an hour. I just wanted to go to Sesame Street, dude. My wife thought that Sloth from the Goonies was a real person with facial deformity that they cast for the role. She only learned last year that it was makeup. She's 38. If you swallow a gum it will get stuck in your lungs and you'll have to get a surgery. Every other human was an alien here to study me. It's all a fake plot to study me. I was the center of the universe. That pee is stored in the gonads. I was once convinced that there are only 1 million people on Earth. That if you lied, God would come down from the heavens and heal your grandma. The girl next door said the scarecrow in their garden was actually an effigy of the grandfather her grandmother divorced. She claimed that her grandmother made it in her grandfather's likeness to ward off evil spirits, demons, birds, and vandals. As a little kid, I believed her, especially when she showed us a photo of her long dead grandfather that looked remarkably like the scarecrow. I was told if I pressed the button to cross the street too many times, the cops would come after me. I thought the pull string on buses to signal your stop was the brake. I thought women got pregnant at random. I loved the idea of shortcuts and assumed every place must have secret doors leading to other places. And customers weren't allowed in employee doors so they wouldn't crash the travel industry. They were all things like restaurants all have a secret door to Walmart so they can buy large quantities of meat. I believed musicians were fake in the same sense as clowns. SMH. All the supernatural stuff my mom pushed on us. Fairy tales are historical facts. That trains or airplanes will come out of my wound when I don't stop crying. So I stopped. That coyotes with flashlights were coming to heal me. Every time someone asked me what would you like to be when you grow up, my answer would be a white bird because I really thought that was possible. I thought that gypsies can conjure me after watching Drag Me to Hell. When I was like 5 I had a dream that everything I did was in a book and that instead of me reading the Berenstain Bears, they were reading me. So for several months I thought that some set of higher beings watching the things that I do. The Berenstain Bears thing isn't because of the conspiracy thing. I just had a ton of those books and liked reading them as a little kid. I believed many dumb things as a kid, but the dumbest one I can remember so far was when I toughed that the mole in my right leg was a sign that I was going to turn into a dog. I was 4 or 5. I also believed that back then, life was in black and white just like in old TVs and people discovered colors by putting things in the water. A classic one. That the cigarette lighter on the car dashboard was actually a button that activated the ejector seat in the car. Thanks, Dad. I thought if blind people touched something they would I guess sense the color of that object. That AskReddit would have original questions. House hippos. It was commercial. Check it out. I thought no smoking signs were no farting signs for longer than I should have. That I would grow up happy. I thought that my mum and dad had some sort of psychic link to me and could tell when I was lying, what I was thinking, or that I was being a little shit while out playing. The older I got, the more I realized how stupid I was back then. That the book drop at the library was some magical Rube Goldberg device that would check the books in and return them to the shelves. Imagine my disappointment to discover it's just a mail slot with a bin on the other side. That secondary school would be the best. I thought my father was a good person. Oh. How wrong thou art.